we had the opportunity at Fox Digital to talk with some of the voters on the ground. This is what they had to say. Watch.
I think he's a great choice for Kamala because she has no clue. So she actually picked a running mate that was equally stupid.
I heard the last name, but I didn't know who he was. I've never seen him on TV or anything, so I like him at all. I see right through him. I think he's a fast-talking, like, throws in, like, a bunch of things that aren't true, but talks real fast.
So the people on the ground definitely are going to speak their mind, Kristen.
But, you know, we can't poll people's hearts and we can't see into people's hearts. And so when we're looking at these polls and we're looking at who is voting for Trump, you've got 53% of white women that voted for him in 2020. We've got to reach those women. We've got to reach those ridiculous, crazy black men that did vote for Trump. We've got to reach those people. We've got to reach the Cuban men in Miami that overwhelmingly voted for Trump. I don't know what their hearts look like, but I know what their votes look like.
But I'm not talking, just, you know, I'm not speaking to people's hearts, and I am sunshine and rainbows, but I am not Pollyanna in this world. What I'm speaking to is when you resonate with someone's heart, and Kamala has a good heart.
And I'm talking here on this one, especially to the guys. You keep hearing about this gap on there. I refuse to admit that that's real because I know that we care deeply. I know these issues matter to you. I know they matter to all of us. We need to get, especially young men, out there to vote. This is not damn WWE type stuff. It's not about, well, it's cool when he talks like this or whatever. It's not cool. It hurts people. And it leads to violence and it undermines our system. That is not cool. And again, they're all talk on this. I guarantee you I can shoot better cousins than them.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the mainstream liberal media that is currently coping with the reality that the Kamala Harris campaign is collapsing, okay? She started off as a superstar, and everybody who paid attention to Kamala Harris back in 2019 knew what was going to happen as soon as she started to open her mouth. I mean, usually when Kamala Harris opens her mouth, at least before she ran for president, good things happen, right? But after she started to run for president, yeah, opening her mouth is just not a good move, right? She probably should do less of that, right? But she has to do more of it because she's losing, right? The basement strategy was not working for Kamala Harris. And now that she has started to do interviews, the more interviews that she does, the worse that it's going to get, okay? Because people are realizing why she got rejected back in 2019 when she was running for president in the Democrat Party primary. It's because she is a very, very, very bad politician, right? She's just not good. Her policies are terrible. She's an extremist, and she does not have the ability to articulate why is it that people should vote for her? What makes her different than Joe Biden, okay? And what is she going to do, right? She's just terrible. And the mainstream liberal media is having a really hard time dealing with the current reality of what is happening. Take a look.
So sure, offer up all the ideas of what more Harris could be doing in these few remaining days before the election. At the same time, it's actually you, the American voter, who needs to step up. Truly look at the choice before us. Listen to Donald Trump's speeches. Truth over lies, democracy versus fascism, or something like that looks like it. Your interests rather than revenge for Donald Trump's ego. The rule of law versus Donald Trump's lawlessness, kindness versus cruelty. If you are concerned about those things and are worried Harris could very well lose, well, do something. Get to work. As Barack Obama said in Pittsburgh last night, don't just sit back and hope for the best. Vote and help get out the vote. If we care about this experiment called America, the search for a more perfect union that has the possibility of being ever more perfect every day. Don't despair. Don't be discouraged. I mean, you can be, but don't just be. Don't just criticize. And women, I'm talking to you because this is about getting back our 50 years of rights so our daughters can be safe at the doctor. We know better. We know better than to wait for someone else to get this job done. We're women. We always come through for each other. So let's not miss this opportunity to step up for women, for families across the United States of America. And if you're frightened by the option of Donald Trump, don't just talk about all the things you think the Harris camp is doing wrong. Get to work. I know women will.
We had, of course, Joe Biden in the race, losing ground to Donald Trump. Kamala Harris gets in the race. It seems to be tied up. You have a debate. Harris gets the bump from the debate, goes up 4 or 5 points, and then it comes back where you knew it was going to come back to. We're 3 weeks out. We're tied. It's 48-48. And there's some really interesting numbers I want to ask you about. And mainly about Kamala Harris needing to lock down a higher percentage of Hispanic voters, needing to lock down a higher number of black voters, and also, of course, carrying on the other side of the margin, carrying a historic number of white educated voters. And it's just fascinating to see how all that's going to play together. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, and Joe, you're exactly right. The timing of our poll is really instructive here. And when our September poll came out and had Harris with a 5-point lead over Donald Trump, that, of course, was after the debate. It was after a really rough news environment for Donald Trump with the discussion about Springfield, Ohio. And now, all of a sudden, we do show a tied race. And what has occurred is that those soft Republicans, non-MAGA Republicans, have come back home to Trump. In our September poll, they were lagging, obviously, after the debate, after the discussion of Springfield, Ohio. Our poll finds them that they are back with Trump, and that explains him going from 44% in our poll in September now to 48%. But, Joe, you ended up mentioning the things that Harris has to work on with shoring up Latino voters, getting African Americans in the fold, white women. Our poll ends up having a really big gender gap where Harris has a 14-point lead among female voters, while Donald Trump has a 16-point lead among male voters. That's overall a 30-point net gender gap.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? MSNBC is in full-blown panic, right? Joe Scarborough is playing it cool, but Mika Brzezinski, she's losing it, right? And women, we need you to show up, please. Our rights are under attack, please, right? Well, you know, hey, I'm just saying, I'm hoping that the reverse of 2022 happens this year, right? I'm hoping that men have to show up and save this country, okay? Because women's rights are not under attack, okay? And honestly, it's about time that men stand up and to take the country back, because a vast majority of the policies that are driving this country off the cliff are coming from deranged liberal women. Speaking of deranged liberal women, we have to talk about the most deranged liberal women on cable television, which are the cackling hens on The View. They are also coping over the reality of Kamala Harris collapsing. And they're making all types of excuses, including blaming the media. Take a look.
Look, I think that Kamala Harris has been running a flawless campaign, and that's why she raised billions of dollars, $1 billion. I think it's because of the momentum that she has. I think it's because people believe in her, and I think people are showing that by the amount of money that they're willing to give to the campaign. I think we have the press to blame for a lot of this. About, Whoopi, you always say you don't believe in polls. I'm with you now, because I'm reading the press. First it was, Kamala's not doing enough press. Then she goes on this huge press tour. She was here with us. I thought she was fantastic. She was energetic. The crowd went wild. It was electric. CNN, Democrats go anxious. Axios, blue wall blues. Fox, Dems are scared to death. No, Dems are not scared to death. Dems are pumped. What I would like the press to talk a little bit more about is Trump is in hiding. He didn't do the 60 Minutes interview. He does not want to do another debate. He's in mental decline. Obama's speech was captivating in Pittsburgh, yet instead of talking about that, we're talking about what he said before the speech to black men. I think that the media has to do a much better job than what they're doing.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, I personally think that Sunny Holston is probably one of the dumbest commentators on television, right? She really is, okay? She's so stupid. How do you believe that Kamala's campaign has been run flawlessly? Oh, well, she raised $1 billion. Yeah, she raised $1 billion from millionaires and billionaires. The rich people that Democrats claim they're against. Yeah, that's who Kamala Harris has raised a vast majority of her money from, right? Those people who were withholding their money from Joe Biden because they didn't believe Joe Biden could win. When Kamala got in the race, they decided to give their money to her. That's why she raised $1 billion. But her campaign has been a total disaster. And it's been so bad that even Sarah Haynes had to basically push back against Sunny Holston in her extremely out of touch take here by claiming that, no, Kamala has definitely made some mistakes. Take a look.
I'd say, and I'm going to push back a little on Sunny's comment that it's a flawless campaign. And this is why I'll say this. I am voting for Kamala Harris because we talked about this last week, all the whys. But I think the criticism of people who it's not resonating with, she went on a media blitz and it was mostly friendly interviews. There was some questions, but she didn't seem prepared. The question you asked her got a ton of press about how would you change yourself? If this is an election of change, she needs to...
What would your administration do differently than a Biden administration?
But and she said not one thing comes to mind. And she's headed into a media blitz. So these are the questions you're going to get. And so what I'm confused about is either she wasn't prepared, which I don't think so, because I think she over-prepares, or she doesn't have a difference to sell.
Well,
and
she
I
did
think
sell a difference at
she
the
did
end.
eventually. But
Yes,
my
she
point
did.
here is that I wouldn't go flawless on it, because I think there were some missed opportunities. And I think what people who are criticizing back what their problems are is I don't think they fully understand. They know why she's not Donald Trump, but they don't know why she's not President Biden. And I think she needs to be both of those things in an election of change. And I also think aside from beating Donald Trump, she needs to be very clear to the voters as to why she wants the job.
But don't you think they know that she definitely isn't Donald Trump?
That's my point, is that's clear.
But yes,
but I think
they know
in
that.
change, she needs to also distinguish herself.
But here's the thing, and I know that in politics this may not be the most common thing. Kamala Harris is loyal. And so if what people want is for her to throw Joe Biden under the bus and say he did this wrong, he did this wrong, she's not going to say it.
But there's
of course Kamala Harris is going to be...
There's a ton of ways to do it.
How about this? How about this?
Yeah, so nobody cares what Whoopi has to say because she's not going to contribute anything intellectual to the conversation. But in regards to what Sarah Haynes was saying there, she claims that, Kamala Harris has definitely messed up when it comes to the interview. She has not been flawless, which is true. Now, where Sarah Haynes is getting it wrong because she is a supporter of Kamala Harris, clearly she's not really trying to tell the truth about Kamala Harris. She said, I think that Kamala Harris is overprepared. No, Kamala Harris is not overprepared. She's underprepared. This is why she can't answer the question of what is it that makes you different from Joe Biden. She had a month and a half of hiding from the media to prepare for these questions, right? She should have been prepared. Her team should have prepared her to be able to finesse this answer, right? In fact, if I was Kamala, I would have went to Joe Biden and say, listen, I understand that you're salty about being pushed out, but we have to win, right? We have to beat Trump. And in order to beat Trump, I'm going to have to throw you under the bus, right? I'm sorry, okay? We're going to have to differentiate ourselves from the administration. I think that we did some great things. However, the American people don't agree with that, right? And that's part of the reason why you were pushed out of the race. We have to change some things. The American people do not agree with what we've done, right? That's what she should have did, right? If she really was about it like that, she basically had to throw Joe Biden on the bus. That was her only way of winning, right? That's the only way that she could actually come out here and to differentiate herself in a way that actually is meaningful, okay? You can't come out here and say, I'm going to do the same things as Joe Biden, and I would not have done anything differently than he did, while at the same time claiming you're the candidate of change. No. You got to come out here and say, I didn't agree with repealing the executive orders when it comes to the border. I didn't really agree with that. Yes, we did some things wrong. Yes, we made some mistakes. These were the mistakes that we made. And we learned from those mistakes, right? That's what you got to say. She won't even say that she learned from the mistakes. If you're not going to say that you don't agree with what Biden did, right? If you're not going to say that, then say, at the time, we thought that this was the right thing to do. But we learned that this was actually not the best move for X, Y, and Z reason, right? If that's the way that you got to soften it up. But she's so mediocre that she doesn't have the ability to finesse her way through differentiating herself from Joe Biden. And it's not really that hard. You don't have to completely throw him under the bus. You just have to say, look, there's some things that he did I don't necessarily agree with. Or you say, we did some things, we learned from it, we were wrong, and this is why I'm changing. This is why you can trust me moving forward, because I learned from my mistakes, right? That's the path that J.D. Vance took when it comes to his past criticisms of Trump. He came out and said, I was wrong. Which is something that is extremely rare for a politician to do, is to say, I was wrong. I learned from my mistakes, and this is why you can trust me moving forward. That move from J.D. Vance, it humanizes him, right? It makes him look like somebody that's actually trustworthy and honest, okay? That's the difference. Kamala Harris does not look trustworthy, and she does not look honest, because she's coming out and telling us that she's going to change things, or that she's the candidate of change, while also at the same time admitting that she would not have changed anything that Biden did, and that she agreed with everything that he did, and that she was responsible for a lot of things that he did. So why would people trust you to change anything if you're telling us that you agree with everything Biden did, and you would have done it, and you were a part of it? It doesn't make sense. The math is not mathing, right? That's what the kids like to say, right? But see, this is what you do when you think that American people are dumb. They think that running on Kamala being a black woman and Trump derangement is enough. Well, we can come out here and say things that are completely nonsensical, that are totally contradictory, and people are going to line up and vote for us anyways, which, you know, when it comes to a significant amount of people in this country, they are right about that. That is the correct calculation. But is it enough to win an election? Especially when your administration is one of the most unpopular administrations in recent American history. Biden and Kamala Harris are the most unpopular administration that we've had in a long, long, long time. So, no, you don't have the room to come out here and to say that, well, I agree with everything that we did. No, you got to admit that you were wrong. This is why we were wrong, and this is how we're going to change things. That's how you do it. But because she doesn't want to do that, because politicians have large egos, they never admit that they're wrong, it just makes Kamala Harris look like somebody that's not trustworthy. You don't learn from your mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistakes, then why should we believe that you're the right person for the job? That you're the right person for the job when you made all these mistakes and you can't even admit that you made the mistakes, that you did anything wrong. If you don't have the ability to self-evaluate, then that speaks to your lack of judgment. You can't even judge yourself correctly. You can't evaluate yourself correctly. So how do we trust you to evaluate the current state of the country and to solve the problems that we have with the right solutions? We can't, right? Because clearly you're showing us that, well, your judgment is off in regards to what you've done up until this point, which is why she is losing. This is why she's tanking. And it's hilarious because that interview on The View might have been the interview that tanked her campaign. I'm so serious. Like, that one answer that she gave that Trump is now using in a ton of ads may have been the interview to tank her campaign, right? Which again is the funniest part about all of this. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.